50 Meter. Das ist alles. Mensch, wir haben unser ganzes Leben lang davon geträumt, im Westen zu kommen. Das ist alles, was uns davon abhält.
Günther, du bist verrückt. Wir schaffen es nie bis über die Grenze.
Hans, ich habe den Abschied die letzten 3 Tage beobachtet. Wenn wir es schlau anstellen, dann können wir das schaffen.
Das ist viel zu gut bewacht hier.
Mensch, ich habe meine Einzugspapiere bekommen. Wenn ich jetzt nicht gehe, dann stehe ich 1 Monat da oben und spiele Mausschütze. Das kann ich nicht machen.
Hey, komm, lass aber auf.
Hey. Aufgeben wird nie was verändern. Sag mal ganz ehrlich, wenn du eine gute Chance hättest, in den Westen zu kommen, würdest du es machen? Würdest du es machen?
Yes. But this isn't a good chance.
They don't get any better.
Bitte wait.
What? Are you afraid?
Of course I'm afraid.
You'll have to face that fear, Hans. To ever be free. I won't be afraid anymore. Ta!
Ah! Don't move!
There's another one!
You have all heard of the unfortunate events surrounding your classmate, Gunther Freihofer. Herr Burkholz is here from the security police to make a thorough investigation into the matter. Because the school strongly condemns Gunther's actions, we support Herr Burkholz in finding the cause of his betrayal. Expect your full cooperation.
Nach den Richtlinien so vorgenommen worden sind, wie wir das für richtig halten. Das heißt, alle Angehörigen, die in der Freiwilligen... Das sieht immer noch auf viele...
What do you want?
That's package delivery for Kirstein. Frau Freihöfer? Frau Freihöfer? Frau Freihöfer? It's Hans Schmidt. You remember me? I'm a friend of Günther's.
What are you doing here?
I came to say I'm sorry about Günther.
They wouldn't let me see him. They blame me. What kind of mother would let her son?
I was there with him. When he...
Is there anything I can do for you?
It's dangerous for you to be here. Did Frau Milky see you?
Yes, but she...
They don't know you're here. Leave. Now. My son is dead, Hans. There's nothing you can do for me. Go.
Visiting a friend, are we? Why didn't you stop him?
I tried to. I thought it was a joke at first. By the time I realized he was serious, he He was practically already through the fence.
Why didn't you report this? Failure to report an attempt to flee the Republic is considered collusion. I could have you imprisoned. What do you want to do after school?
What?
What do you want to do?
Go to university?
And what do you want to study?
Engineering.
Unfortunately, something like this could greatly hurt your chances of ever attending university. However, I may be able to help you. First, you must publicly denounce your friend's treason. Second, you will report in early military conscription, where you will serve loyally for 18 months. And if you serve with distinction in an elite unit, such as Border Troop Detail, you may get your engineering education. Or is that a problem for you?
Your orders are disrupt, arrest, destroy. Those who wish to flee the DDR, the true bastion of peace in Europe, are traitors. Demonstrate the protocol of border breakthrough.
Halt! Don't move!
If the verbal warning does not stop the fugitive, fire a warning shot. If the warning shot goes unheeded, you must use whatever means necessary to stop the escape. Next!
Halt! Don't move!
Again!
Halt! Don't move!
Next!
Halt! Don't move!
Again!
Halt! Don't move!
Do you think that's gonna stop anyone? Again!
Halt! Don't move!
Forward sector clear.
Oh, 8 hours staying at nothing.
The edge of the world.
You hear the joke about the border guard and the citizen?
No.
Border guard walks up to a citizen and asks, "What are your views on the wall?" Citizen replies, "The same as yours." So the border guard says, "Then I must arrest you."
What?
And if I were going to escape, what would you do? What would you do, Schmidt?
Don't be ridiculous.
Schmidt!
Border breakthrough, Prince Posten 32.
Halt! Don't move! Piotr is alone.
What did you do? Don't move.
What?
Drop your rifle.
You must be joking.
Drop your rifle and lie down. Lay down!
You sounded the alarm, Schmidt. Reinforcements will be here any minute.
You stay there.
You won't make it.
Stay there.
Günther, we made it.
This tells the story which is not very well known for younger generation.
East Germany was a place where the government had like complete control. Everything that that went on, it wasn't a free society.
Every aspect of their lives were affected by the system.
I just have to imagine what it was like to be very closely watched, to have a lot of bureaucratic scrutiny, and to have no political freedom, to have a lot of pressure on you from the top, and a state that's based on fear.
People that desperate for freedom are willing to risk their lives, and that to me was very powerful. I'm not sure if that's, I think that's something we forget all too often.
everyone is like, oh, that's a long time ago. It's not a long time ago.
This film, The Iron Curtain, shows that sector or segment to people what really and how this happened.
I really like that American filmmakers do something about Germany. It's not the Nazi and the bad guy. It's about a true German story, and it's an interesting story to tell.
And it's very important that at that time already young people and families died trying to escape from the oppressive Russian regime or East German regime to the West.
It's a very sad story, and of course all these stories, what they tell us or what we saw in the news afterwards, how people escaped, it's kind of a sad thing.
I have not experienced directly East Germany at that time. However, I experienced many signs of communist rule and regime in my country, which was the same as in East Germany.
I know a little bit about the story. I'm not from East Germany, I'm from West Germany, but I lived in East Germany when the wall came down already.
But I definitely remember, seeing it happen on TV and being like, wow, there was a wall that separated like people from other people. Like that's such a foreign thing to like a kid growing up in New York City.
Anybody who grew up in the Cold War, as I do remember the Cold War, always wondered, what's it like to live in a totalitarian society? We have all these images. We were fed as kids lots of propaganda. Nuclear war was imminent. We were all going to die in a nuclear holocaust. And of course it didn't happen, which was very fortunate, obviously. But the fact that you deal with now, what's it like on the other side, the other side of the Iron Curtain, to have lived in a communist country, and to imagine what it's like.
It reminds me of meeting people behind the Iron Curtain in East Germany and in Czechoslovakia and Poland, and here, talking to someone my age in the 80s and having them ask me, do you have a copy of Time magazine that you can smuggle? Which would probably get them arrested, which would get them arrested.
I first came up with the concept for Iron Curtain in 1998. And I had known growing up about the Soviet Union and about the Cold War and about the Berlin Wall a little bit, all in very vague terms. The Berlin Wall was the instrument of shutting out the rest of the world and actually shutting in its own people. It wasn't until I went to Berlin that I really actually started to understand the human element of the Berlin Wall. I was very taken back when I first came there, 9 years after the wall fell, to see how pervasive that society had been, that so many of the marks were still very fresh, almost a decade later. And most of the people who tried to escape were young people not yet 25, and young men of precisely the exact same age stood watching concrete guard towers ready to kill them. I was fascinated to think that had I been born 9 years earlier and in East Germany, then that would have been the exact dilemma I would have been facing. The Berlin Wall was literally not only the line between East and West, but also between freedom and death. The most volatile point and most intriguing were the young people who were forced to be border guards, who enforced that system. They had this dilemma between murder and treason, that if an escape attempt occurred, then they were either supposed to fire on those fugitives, or they were branded a traitor. That was the most intriguing point to me. So we really did want to center the story around the border guards and the conflict, the moral conflict of a border guard. In our approach, the first thing that we tried to do was we defined who the border guards were, and that required a lot of research. I gave each of the actors video documentaries and training videos, actual East German training videos about how the border guards operated. And in terms of the costumes, we were actually able to use the actual uniforms that the border guards wore. And in fact, some of those still have the names of the soldiers in them. It was really haunting, but it helped feed the actors' imagination as well as mine. The more we could get the look of the border guards, the easier it was to approach their psychology. It helped that inner conflict to trap their humanity under that menacing exterior.
How do I like working with John? John was great. seems very intelligent, has a very good sense of what he wants to do with the film. I thought the script was really well written. I was impressed with that.
He really knew what he was talking about, and he was passionate about the project, and it's something I always look for. I like working with passionate people, and he was passionate about the project, and I think that by having a director who's passionate, that kind of breeds passion in the cast and the crew.
He really sees his goals, he knows what he wants to do, and he really enjoys to tell the story, so I'm into helping him telling the story.
He formulates what he wants very clearly. I don't have to ask him any other question. So it's a pleasure to work with a director like that.
Yeah, he seems open-minded as he works too. He's not closed-minded about the results, so he's ready to react to things that happen in process.
This is a cooperation between an actor and the director.
You see how the concept and vision that you have evolves slightly as other people add their passions to it.
Check the gate. All right, let's check the gate, please, Tim.
It was a very good experience with all the actors involved. Everybody was very collaborative and very much focused on what their contribution was, and they always had ideas. Marcus devoted himself in so many ways, far beyond being just the lead actor. And at the same time, he was always able to bring emotional depth to his role. He always brought the proper grounding and the preparation that he needed for that. He really seemed to approach the character from the inside. He did have a very good understanding. I think it does help that he's German, to have a cultural understanding and insight into this character and this story. I always found he was a really, truly collaborative actor, because he was always able to focus on contributing to the film as a whole rather than focusing on himself. Zach was a real trooper who was willing to learn a German accent, which is a large challenge for an American actor, especially when you're acting opposite a real German.
I got a German accent tape, and I started working on it so I could do an actual German accent, which I was very intimidated to find out that I'd be doing it with a real German. Just kind of intimidating to do like a scene with an accent with a person who's actually from that country. A little bit more than the audition.
I was really glad to see the actors embrace those challenges and take them head on. Sarah and Alexander were excellent to work with. I really enjoyed the preparation and the choices that they brought to each of their roles, and it really made both of their roles come alive. I had worked with Soren before on The Quarry, so it was a pleasure to work with him again. And I'd even worked with Matt, who played our fugitive, so it was great working with him again as well. Otto not only brought his acting abilities to the film, but he also brought his own personal experiences. He's a native of Czechoslovakia, so he brought his personal experiences with that system. And Michael also brought his personal experiences. He actually grew up in East Germany, and his family immigrated out of East Germany when he was a child. So it was great to see each of these actors bring their full contribution as an actor. They also had some insight in their personal lives that they were able to contribute to the film. It was a very enjoyable experience with working with all of the cast.
Action.
In creating the film, I felt it was crucial to be respectful to the victims of the wall and as truthful as possible in our storytelling. And while production constraints required us to take some creative license, we wanted to remain as historically accurate as possible. And shooting in America with a low budget, we had to take some creative license in terms of the locations. The wall that we used for the shoot, we intended originally to build a set, but we found that we had this 16-foot tall, 200-foot wall at the Tustin Air Base, and worked perfectly for us. It was impressive, but it also made me rewrite the film. It was actually taller than the real wall, so I had to find a feasible way a person could scale that height. The Tustin Marine Air Base was shut down following military cutbacks in the 1990s, and it proved to be an ideal location for us. It was interesting to feel the sense of history there.
Coming out here to Tustin Air Base, I mean, this is kind of like a relic of the Cold War. So really it didn't take a big stretch of the imagination to think of pre-Berlin Wall, East Germany, because, you know, it's like two relic societies. So.
We were able to shoot all the exteriors at the air base, including the wall. We also shot most of the interiors at various barracks and office buildings. It worked just like a studio for us, since we didn't have to worry about crowd control or many of the other interferences you encounter when shooting out in public. We had this very large lot where you could move from one building to the other or out to one of the exterior locations, but have the entire production based in one basic vicinity. And just like a studio, when there was a lull in shooting at one location, I could walk over to the next one and check in on how it was being prepped. We shot nearly all the film at the Tustin Air Base. We only shot one scene, Frau Freihofer's apartment, on stage. I wanted a specific geography and layout for Frau Freihofer's apartment, to have the cramped, wallpapered look of an East German apartment. We shot that at the Marriott Nantes Studios, which is an amazing facility. The studio had only been open for 2 months, and I believe we were only the second production to shoot on that stage. Nantes Studios continued to serve us through the post-production. We were able to use full-fledged Foley sound stages and had full editing, mixing, and 2K scanning and color correction facilities for finishing the film. Chapman University has a piece of the Berlin Wall on its campus, and though many students walk past it every day, I don't think most people realize how the wall worked. 20 years ago, most of the people who tried to escape were young people not yet 25, and young men of precisely the exact same age stood watching concrete guard towers ready to kill them. I don't think most people really understand that.
Walls are very potent forces as far as history goes. You know.
There are a lot of borders between people just in the same city, and the borders are not necessary.
It obviously creates a story because it's a boundary, and it creates an obstacle for people to deal with.
It's a thing about that, just what is between us, it should be still there.
I think that it's pertinent to always see these stories and to constantly be reminded, you know, that unchecked, that there are the people who will take over, and really start, not allowing people to do what makes them happy, and that's the most tragic thing of all.
Living in America, you forget how precious a thing like freedom is.
You never really understand how important freedom is until you see its absence. This is definitely a story that shows that. And especially it also shows the lengths that certain people were willing to go to obtain freedom.
So projects like this and, that get people thinking, that get people talking about issues. I think that that's some of the most important work that somebody can do.